Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today's subject is going to be the age-old question: what is the best survival knife for me? And there's obviously going to be some caveats to that to answer that question. So we'll get locked into this topic here pretty good, and hopefully I can make sense out of my thoughts on the subject. So everybody, just stick with me here, and we'll dive right into it. In a lot of ways, that question is as difficult as it is simple to answer. So, in general, there's going to be some prerequisites that are going to be applicable to what is your definition of a survival knife in general. And your definition of what a survival knife is versus somebody else will most likely be completely different from each other's. So that's going to be some issues to try to explain throughout the rest of the video. So now that I got that little bit of explaining out of the way, we're going to tackle the subject in a kind of a somewhat scientific way here, and hopefully everybody will be able to pick up what I'm putting down as we go along, and we'll preface it key important factors that can definitely come into you selecting a very specific type of knife that you would be considered, quote unquote, your survival knife. Now, I brought out a small sampling of some of my knives, and that was just so I could have something to actually show for comparison. Okay, so we're going to get down to the very simple basic parts that you need to consider before you satisfied with saying any particular knife is going to be your survival knife. And it's actually not going to be that difficult to do. All right, some factors to consider, and these are no particular order. Just we're going to go over the first ones that come to mind. Where do you live? What is the environment that you dwell in is like? Most you got your seasons. Most places have 4 seasons regardless, and I know some places is more warm all year round. Some are much colder most of the year. But that's the first part of your criteria you need to figure out. What's my environment, and then your seasonal conditions. So now, who's to say you need to pick just the one knife? At the very least, if you can save up to do it, maybe you can get 2 knives. Because within most general practices, you should be able to manage spring through summer, fall through winter. And usually fall, especially late fall going into winter, you'll typically have the same needs, but definitely more so focused for fire and stuff in the winter. So consider your environment first thing. Excuse me. Secondly, to take into consideration your health level. That's always a factor. Now, if you say you have a weak wrist or arthritis, that could be something to consider. Is a knife going to be weighted right for you? Is it going to be comfortable for you to use? Then there's also considered a factor of the laws where you live. Can you even carry any of these knives or machetes? That's something to consider. Now, if you're going to be traveling somewhere, you'll have to basically start all over with all these characteristics you need to line out for. Are you taking a vacation somewhere? Are you leaving the U.S., going to a place that has jungle environment, desert environment? You have to really, think about your selection. And you may not be able to take with you. You might have to purchase a new blade when you get to where you're going. It could be a thing too. And most importantly, in some situation, you really need to consider your skill level. And that, the question, what is the best survival knife for me? And often, it's been adopted the standard answer, all the knife that you got on you. Okay, well, true enough, the knife you have on you very well could be your survival knife, depending on what situation that's happened. that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best one for you and your environment and your situation. So let's factor in the fact that if you're picking this, and I'm just using an example, obviously don't have to be any knives showing here. You're picking a knife to be your survival knife. It's very important to be able to have the knife on you as an EDC item. You need to have it on you all the time. So if something does happen, you actually have it to be your survival knife. And that, if you're not carrying it, or you're carrying it in a pack, or it's in your car, in a locker at work, I mean, that's good that you have it near you, but there's no guarantees that you can get to it. I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. It's nice to have that as an emergency backup. You know where it's at. It's there in case you need it. And if you can't get to it, all the better. Now let's just run under the scenario that you cannot get to any of your stuff. You have to literally run. You have to go get out of Dodge, whatever the situation is. Civil unrest, about rule of law, shit hit the fan, whatever acronym or whatever you want to call it. And that is the whole principle behind carrying a good solid EDC, is that you are prepared as you are. And like I said, I do understand some people's vocations or jobs may not allow carrying a lot of stuff or anything at all. I can't really help you with that, because that is a legit thing. But there's definitely a crucial element to all this: your skill level. If you do not have any skills with cutting tools, then just going to be brutally honest with everybody watching, no knife is the best survival knife for you. If you have no familiarity with knives, folding, pocket, fixed blade, whatever you want to call it, then you're up against it pretty hard at that point. Not knowing the proper methods to use your knives, or just cutting tools in general, like this 12-inch Ontario here, if you don't have the skills to properly use a tool, it's not going to be very effective for you. Obviously, I mean, just general basic cutting anybody can do, which is great. That's very handy. Reason most people do carry a cutting tool, but we're running under the assumption, the scenario, that we're in a survival situation. And are you in a wooded area, you rural areas, or are you in the city, urban? Uh, you know, do you even have access to get to the woods to to make fires, build shelters, and all that stuff? And again, if you are traveling out somewhere, if you can't, send all your tools, ship all those tools ahead of you, and you'll be there waiting for you, and you have to purchase it when you get there. So whatever you're going to have with you on a vacation or an adventure or a camp or hike, you've intentionally packed tools, and it's assumed you know how to use them and maintain them. So now that we've addressed the elephant in the room, a lot of people with a lot of skills can accomplish a lot of things with different tools that are not accomplishable by your average inexperienced person. It's like a lot of people would, maybe consider, if I can get this out of here without knocking the knives down, Sapper Grow 142 survival knife. And for me, yeah, that's kind of in a survival knife range. It's definitely got the size, the weight, the versatility, good handle, good steel. It's pretty good thick spine, saber grind on it, almost flat. Only thing I would address to be wary about, and because this is a new knife, is it does have cutouts. If you're okay with that for your survival knife, then so be it. Now, me personally, with potential skill levels and everything, what I'm able to do, this $40 It's a Spyderco. It's one of their budget line ones. It's 8CR13 MOV. That could be my survival knife with my skill level. But that's not to say that everybody's able to do that. Now, do I have my preferences? Absolutely. No doubt about it. Pardon me, I need a drink. The Gerber Prodigy, as per my outhouse review of this tool, has been a very loyal companion for me for many years. Actually, I'd say virgin on a decade now. I can't say enough good things about it. There are knives that are far better than this one, made better than this one, absolutely. But with my skill level, what I can do with the knife, I can actually opt to go much more budget friendly. And being I know how to maintenance knives, hone them, sharpen them, fix damaged tips, chip blades, even improvise handles if my handle somehow breaks. Those are skills I understand not everybody is going to have. But if you are seeking to be prepared, I would definitely behoove people to try to learn as much as they can and practice your skills. This Parang machete, I'm very fond of, especially the handle. I absolutely love this thing's handle. Now, for me, if I have the option to grab and go, and we're going to say grab something for a survival knife, probably going with this due to its versatility. What it can do, I can process wood, I can chop wood, small trees. I can use it for a nice draw knife. I can cut brush, briars. I can build shelters with this thing. I can make fire with this thing. And I know how to maintenance it. If something happens to it, I can potentially fix it back up to where it's still quite usable. But are you capable of carrying it where you're at? Also, to take in consideration, like I said, if you're urban, you're out in a major city, maybe something more appropriate for you. And obviously, if you are able to carry it, don't want no one to get in trouble. So if you can't carry it, but a simple multi-tool. And this is just skeletal. It's lightweight, simple to carry. You got screwdrivers, a cutting tool, pliers, wire cutters, and of course, gotta have that bottle opener. It's not a multi-tool, I guess, without it. Though I would recommend something if you're carrying it with strictly with the intentions of it being your survival option. Maybe something a little more robust, bigger, heavier duty Leatherman, if you can possibly do that, like a Wave, Signal, or if you want the newer, like Leatherman Arc, if you so desire, just something that gives you options. And apparently I'm not going to be able to get that thing refastened. Here we go. All right, so now then, I know I've said a lot to try to get to the main point. It's like, so when a person asks anybody who's got a YouTube channel, maybe they are like an expert, they actually have legit schools, classes, they train groups of people, maybe even train soldiers and police officers, search and rescue guys, and you ask one of them, and they're most likely going to tell you the knife you have on you is your best survival knife. And there is merit to that. Now, I'm not giving a super harsh criticism on that. So let's say this is this Benchmade Osborne 940 here. Let's just say that is my constant EDC. That's what I got on me. So that's going to be my survival knife if anything happens. So now it is my responsibility to do my due diligence, to learn and to practice and to do what I can and do it well with this knife. Things to definitely consider is, like I said, fire prep. Can you make a fire with it? Basic shelter building. Can this thing actually accomplish helping you make a shelter? and understand that the materials that you're going to have access to may be sparse, and in some cases, it may just not even be existent. So, at some point, it may even be irrelevant what you have to build a shelter with if you can't do it. Now, to say that one tool will do it all, yeah, I think that's a bit of a fallacy. A lot of these blades are quite competent, and I can with my skill level make them perform what I need to do, and a lot of it has to do with experience. I know how hard to push it, whether battening is even an option, and there's other methods to doing things. Like, for example, say I wanted to split this piece of wood down, and this is what I got. Well, I can go to some trees, preferably hardwood trees, cut off some, maybe just kind of take that branch, start beaver chewing into it until eventually I break it off, then cut it to like a flat chisel, get me another branch somewhere, even one laying on the floor, and use it to split that other piece of wood. Once you get to a chisel, simply put it in there, gently peck it, and move it across, and put it down there off the corner, batten that through there, and make a couple of those wedges, and you can split wood. So with that in mind, what you carry, the more versatile it is, the better. So as an example, since we had the pocket knife here, this is one of my pretty general rotations, if not the most often out of my Victorinoxes I carry. I have a good main blade, and of course we have the saw in there, and that is one of the important factors that made me choose to carry that inside my pocket, the saw and that awl. And it's got a nice, good, sharp knife blade. Those three tools in there can do an incredible amount of work for me. And as you can see, it is even smaller than the Benchmade. Fairly light. So I guess let's stop beating around the bush with it. What's the best survival knife? It doesn't exist. It's what's the best knife for you based on your environment, your skill level. Some of these, like I said, you may not have access to due to where you live or where you work. So showing all the big fixed blade knives and stuff may be irrelevant to you. So at that point, it's, can you carry a good folding pocket knife? Are you even allowed to have one that locks? Or are you going to have something a little more traditional? This four-bladed Congress here by Rough Rider, had it for many, many years. Fantastic knife. I can do quite a bit with it. Same for this old Trapper model here. I can do a lot with this knife. I can, in fact, make either one of these work as my survival knife with my skill level. So I would like everybody to take that in consideration. And like I said, no matter what, you need to do your due diligence and train, because you can make any one of these knives your survival knife or machete. I kind of often consider these large knives, especially like something like this 12-inch or the 12-inch Tramontina. I often use these as substitutes for larger belt knives, as well as my parang. But if you take the time, and maybe you can find a park somewhere if you live in a town or a city, find some stuff that that the groundskeepers have already cut, so you won't get in trouble, that you can actually practice with. Do a little bit of research, practice caution, learn some safety tips, and learn how to use your knives. Learn how to, at the very least, hone them or strop them even. That way you can maintain a sharper edge. And then when someone asks the question, what's the best survival knife? And someone answers the one you have on you, you can feel more confident that the one that you have on you, you've done your part, you've researched it, you've considered, are you okay with the materials it's made out of, the quality of the build, your skill level with that knife? Because ultimately that's what it comes down to. So if someone were, if to me would ask me, what's my opinion, what do I think the best survival knife is? I mean, this is about maybe a tenth of all the knives I've got, if that. And I could say that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. I could point every one of these and say that one because of my skill level. That doesn't mean that's the right answer for you. So I would suggest picking not one, not two, maybe at the least 3 different types of knives, whatever you can afford. There's a lot of budgetary options out there, like the F and Grow, Gerber Prodigy, I mean, Tramontina. Basically, pick what you're comfortable with. You can also, if you necessary, pick what you like the look of. It's not necessarily the best method in the world, but there's something for everybody. We got Benchmade Bushcrafter here, or another Up and Grow here. The difference in the knife prices is vast, or even a more closer comparison, the blade shape, size, and weight. My Gerber Prodigy versus this Benchmade Bushcraft, vastly different prices. Thinking this one now is probably somewhere around $280, maybe $290 to $300, depending on where you buy it. And right now, this one should still be available for around $50-$60. And I can do everything that I can do with this blade, I can do with this blade. So that's something to keep in consideration. And like I said, it's your life, it's your responsibility. So now when you're asking the question, are you being honest, or are you just trying to be controversial and cause an argument? Are you honestly looking to carry something to be your survival knife? If that's the case, it's just that simple. Your environment, your skill level, your health, and the law. Keep all those factors in mind. Pick the best that you can that fits in all those criterias, and then it's up to you to practice. Like I said, do your research, find out your steel. If you like that, try to find that steel. Construction is definitely taken into consideration. I said this $50 F and Grow right here, it doesn't have the cutouts in the handle. And if you're interested, I got video to check out the test on this thing. It's fantastic. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap this up. It's been a pretty long walk just to get to the short corner. Keep everything in mind that I said. I think it's good advice, but it's your prerogative. No one has to. I just wanted to maybe help people who are having legitimate issues answering that question. So with that, and obviously, if you have any more questions about it, absolutely feel free to ask in the comments. I try my due diligence to answer everybody's comments, and I do enjoy interacting with the audience. So by any means, anybody's got any questions about the topic of the day, please feel free to leave a comment. And I thank you all very kindly for watching. I appreciate your time. I know this is going to be a pretty long one, but I'll see you all in another video.